Okay, we are going to jump into our 7th tutorial video on local multiplayer, and what this is going to do for us is the camera. We're going to start tackling some of the issues with our camera not being able to move around, and in some cases we need it to zoom in and then pull back out so that we can see more of what's going on. So what we're going to do today is get that camera going. Let's go ahead and jump into this. So a couple things you're probably going to want to have up initially are your game mode. Probably want to have that ready, and your player controller. We're going to need those two. They're going to need a little tiny bit of code in each one of those. Main thing we're going to be working on is actually your camera. Okay, so right now we have our locked camera, which is right here. And should it need it, we can always spawn this back in. But for myself, I think I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that, since we're going to turn this over to like a full-fledged walk around orthographic kind of game. So what I want to do is I'm going to add another one in. So we're going to go in here, we're going to do camera, whoops, if I can spell it right. And that camera, let's see here, we're going to do regular camera actor. Okay, and from there I need to, I just kind of want to, I don't have to add it this way obviously, but I think it'll be kind of interesting. In fact, you know what, we don't have to do it this way because we did it that way last time. Let's go ahead and just make it. This is purely what this is a camera actor. So we're going to do it inside of our couch co-op folder here. I'm going to right click, we're going to go to blueprint class, and we're just going to do a regular old actor. Okay, so this is going to be yeah, I'll do BP underscore follow, whoops, I don't have to have it all capitalized there, follow camera. All right, that's enough. And the way we're going to make this work is we are going to have something on the ground. I'm just going to use a sphere for this. You could use something else if you like, but when we actually have it working and we have everything like we like it, we're going to make that sphere invisible. So if you decide to go with something else, it's totally cool. It's not really particular as to which thing you use, which static mesh you use, but it is going to end up invisible later on. For myself, I already want it to be smaller, so I'm going to go ahead and set this scale to like 0.4, and since I locked that, it'll make sure everything else just kind of follows along with it. Next thing I want to do is I'm going to add in a spring arm, because we need something to cause our camera to move back and forth along that space, so our spring arm is going to take care of that. And then on the end of the spring arm, I need to make sure, see here, my spring arm is attached to my sphere, and then the camera that I'm about to add needs to be attached to the spring arm. So they should all kind of be set up in this hierarchy. Okay, so I'm going to do this camera here. Okay, and we're just going to leave it as camera. Okay, and as far as the spring arm is concerned, target arm length, what I'm going to do is probably set it at about 900. We'll start there, and then we can adjust this however we need to. So I'm going to go ahead and compile. One other thing we want to do on the sphere itself is we want to make sure that the collision is off, because we don't want anybody to run into it. That shouldn't be a thing that they need to worry about. So we're going to go down here to collision, and right now it says block all dynamic. We're going to flip that over to no collision whatsoever. So nothing really going on here. Should pass right through it if you touch it at all. So let's go ahead and throw this into our level. I'm going to go into the content drawer, drag this in. Okay, so right now the whole setup looks a little bit, it's not quite what I was looking for. There we go. The spring arm only goes back as far as the camera actually can go to. So if I pull this forward, you notice it's going to stay right there until it gets far enough forward that it won't be colliding with the wall. So I'm going to go ahead and push this back to right there, and then the next thing I'm going to do is rotate it. So as it rotates, it'll go to its normal position, and let's see, I can see it down here. I think what I want to do is I also want it to be, well, maybe a little bit closer, but we're really not going to know until we see how everybody spawns into this space. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to put this right in the middle. So right in the middle of where everybody's supposed to be spawning. If I hit play right now, see, it's going to drop it into the middle of the actor. So the issue is that the camera doesn't really know that what we want to do is, or the game doesn't know that we want to use this camera yet. And so even though this is the only one in the whole space, it's just defaulting and trying to make one inside of our characters here. So also, I think I want to get this thing to snap to the ground. There we go. So part of that deal, I think one thing I'll have to do is go back in here, and I might need to pick this up from the scene root. So I'm going to pick it up just a little bit there. So the bottom of the sphere, I'll pull that back, is just where the scene root is touching the bottom. So that should, yeah, that's about right. If you're having a hard time getting things to snap where you need them to, just turn off a lot of these snapping tools up here at the top. And let's compile it and see how it looks now. It looks a little better. I like that. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and get to work. First thing we're going to need to do is we're going to need to set up the camera to start realizing when players are here. So we're going to start with that in the player controller. Okay, and what we're going to do there is we're going to add a couple things to the end, which as soon as the player controller comes into being, it gets spawned and then the player gets spawned, right? So we're going to need something right here at the end of both of these nodes right here to tell the camera to go ahead and start working with this player. Okay, so if we're going to call it from here, we need something that's alive or working before the player controller gets spawned, no matter if it's a first, second, third, fourth, anybody like that. So the thing we're going to have to work with, since we're looking for something before the player controller gets spawned, it's going to have to be in our game mode. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to make a custom event. It's going to be called, well, you can call it whatever you like, really, but for myself, it's going to be add player to camera. Okay, so I'm going to zoom in here, and then what we're going to, how we're going to make this work is we're going to use an event dispatcher. Okay, so I'm going to go down here to the event dispatcher over here, and I'm going to call this setup camera. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and bring it out. We don't need anything special on this. We're just going to go straight into this. We don't need anything crazy. And I'm going to go ahead and compile that, and then we can add this to our player controller now. So right here, what we're going to do, this happens as soon as our first player comes into the game. So the reason we're going to listen for this, or the reason we're going to activate this function to make the camera listen to this new player from here is that whenever somebody hits start on their controller, a second, third, or fourth player, this is going to fire. Okay, so we actually need this in both places. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our game mode. We should already have we're going to need to get a game mode. We're going to have to cast the game mode here. Okay, so let's see. We have the event begin play, so we're going to get it right here. Okay, so we're going to cast to GM_CC. Here we go. And from there, we're going to have get game mode. Okay, there's get game mode, and then we're going to need to turn this into a variable so that we can refer to this a little bit later without having to cast for it again. So we'll just say game, got the caps lock on, game mode ref. Okay, and from here we're going to go straight over to, well, actually, let's see, we're gonna drag right off of this, and we're gonna do add player to camera. Let's see, we have the call function right here, and we have it here as well. So this gets us the game mode ref, which we have right here. I'm not exactly sure why I decided to add that in, but it did. And then that runs straight across. We should be able to take that off. Everything's good. Okay. It's just trying to be helpful. All right, so down here, that's for our first player. That's going to take care of getting our game mode, so we can use that a little bit later whenever the second, third, and fourth players pop in. So what we're going to do is same thing. We're going to add player to camera. The only difference here is that we're going to use that game mode ref on this one because we don't want to have to call for that again. So we're going to drag this over, and then our game mode ref, we're going to bring that in and attach that. That is going to take care of anytime somebody hits the start button on the controller. If you have it set up so everybody has to hit the start button on the controller, maybe after they're doing character selection or something like that, then this would be all you really need. You don't really have to put it on this one, but in my case, and the one that I'm showing you, player one has to be in the game. So this is going to require the add player to camera right here. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and compile that. Everything looks good. That's our game mode and our player character. The rest of this work is just going to be on our BP Follow camera. Okay, so what we're going to be doing here is the camera has to be listening to our event dispatcher from our game mode. So we're going to go into our event graph here, and we're going to start from the event begin play right there. Okay, now everything else as far as the camera, everything is set up. I don't think we really have much to work with there. There's much that we have to change or anything like that anyway. So we're going to start from event begin play, and from here we're going to need to make a few variables. Right off the bat, we're going to cast to, oops, let's see, cast to GMCC, that's our game mode, and from here we're going to get game mode. Okay, there we go. And then we need to get the bind, because this is going to be listening for that event dispatcher. So right from here we're going to do let's see, what was that called? Bind event setup camera. Yeah, there we go. And this has an event that we're going to be pulling off here. This is a little bit different, and some of these different pieces that are pulling from the game mode, you end up with a different style event here, but we're still going to be able to pull off of this, and we're going to do create event. And in our case, we're going to be making a an event. So this little drop down select function right here, we're going to do matching event right here. And I think I'm going to tighten this up just a little bit. Okay. And I'm going to bring this over here because I think that we can leave by itself for pretty much the rest of the time that we're working with this. So that event, we're going to call it, whatever we end up calling this, it's going to change it over on the create event. So I'm going to call this initialize, because that's what it's doing, is it's setting up the camera. Some of these nodes should look very familiar, so I'll just go ahead and see it, maybe initialize event right there. Here we have it. Right, so let's go ahead and drag down here, and we're going to do set, go away, set view target with blend. With blend. May have to undo the context sensitive here. There we go. Okay, so first off, we're going to need to get player controller 1, because that one is already in the game, so we can start with that one. That will help us with initialization. There we go. And then we also want to get a reference to the new target. That's just a reference to the self, so we'll drag off of that and do self reference. Okay, and then after that, what we're going to need to do is we need to find all the actors that we have in the level that are our player character actors. So here's where, one more time, we're going to do get all actors with class. And this case, we're going to be doing BP third person. That's the one we're using for our player character. There we go. And we want to turn this out actors. We're going to turn that into a variable. So I'm going to right click on that, promote to variable. And in that case, I'm just going to call that players. Could also call it active players. That might be handy. Active players. There we go. And from there, then we have that variable now. We want to, we need to make sure that the tick is enabled whenever you get into this. So we don't really want it running beforehand. So this is why we're going to do this now. We're going to do set actor tick enabled. So what we're going to do with the tick is we're going to use that to update the camera so it can zoom in and out and move around the screen. So we want to make sure that that's enabled after we initialize it. Otherwise, we might end up with some other problems. Okay, so we have that. Everything's looking good there. It's going to kind of firm some things up here so they lined up a little bit better. And then the next thing we want to do is we're going to work on the event tick. Okay, so this gets to initialize, the initialize happens, and then we're going to work with the event tick. So all right, go ahead, and there's the event tick right there. Okay, so with this one, I want to do this in kind of two different pieces. We're going to first do the part where the camera is going to move around, and then we're going to do the part where we zoom in and out. Okay, so let me go ahead and let's see here. We're going to approach this. Let's see, get actor array. Yeah, okay, so we're going to start from the players. We need to start with the active players, and we're going to need to find where their locations are. So get world location. Okay. That's not quite the one I'm looking for. Targeted scene component. Oh, I'm silly. I'm not trying to do that with the players. I'm doing that with the sphere. That's right. Because this is myself. Okay, so we're getting our own location right now because we need to say where we're going to start from and where we're going to end up. So we'll need to previous location. Yeah, we're going to need a variable called previous location. So let's go ahead and do that now. Promote to variable. Run that into here, and this variable is going to be called previous location because we need to know where we're starting from, or we need to know where we're going to be moving off from. Okay, now I'm going to need to get the players. Yeah, so let's go ahead and pull off of this. We're going to get actor array average location, and now what this does is it's going to use all the active players, the ones that are actually on right now, and it's going to find out the central location where they all are. Okay, and then let's see, from there we want to have it slowly move to a location, so we don't really want it to snap, otherwise it's going to look a little weird. So the return value there, let's go up to, let's see, let's grab that sphere again because that's kind of the thing that's driving this, and let's go ahead and drop that off. Set world location, there we go. I'm going to connect these here. So the sphere is going to be pushed around. That's the thing that's going to be moving around and then dragging the camera around, which is attached by the spring arm. Okay. So we're going to use a node here called lerp. That's an interpolation node. And what that means is it moves through a series of values over a period of time. You get to decide the series of values and the period of time. So it kind of animates things, kind of makes it smoothly move through those things. Kind of like a timeline, but you have a little bit of different control with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag right off the return value here, this vector, and we're going to do lerp, and it's going to, we want to get the lerp vector right here. If I did the check, that'd probably be one of the only ones I get. Okay. Let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and move this across. This is going to go into new location. And then as far as this, this value right here is going to be previous location. Okay, and then this is how fast it's going to move. So we can start it off at like 0.1, and we can just see how that goes from there. And let's see, what else do we need? That really, as far as making it move around the screen, should probably be enough. Let me just see here. Everything should be good. I should be able to get all these working. I'm going to save everything, and let's see if it works. Okay, so far we're inside of a body here, which is something I was telling you, like, it's going to do this. If we, there we go. Okay, now it's got a second body to base off of. So let's see. It's not really following with us. Okay, it is with both of us. But okay, so the issue is that it's not zooming in and out, but it is trying to stay with us. Okay, so that's where we got to get the zoom in and out. But if we stay together, it'll stay with us. All right, but for some reason, that's kind of funny. Even though we have them set up with the first player, we're not getting it. So let me just kind of take a look here. Okay, so the issue I've come to find is something kind of interesting. So this may or may not already be a setting on your camera whenever you make it, specifically on one part of your camera. So this is on your spring arm. Okay, so for instance, you want to be on your spring arm right here and take a look at camera collision right here. Okay, I'm going to check this because this is the thing that was giving me my issue. I hadn't really seen anything happening with this, but then I noticed whenever I loaded a new one into the area, the camera just fell into the ground. So I picked it up. I'm like, okay, well, this is fine now, right? So that should be good. Like, it just popped right out. Now when I hit play with that on, it does a camera collision test, and the issue is that that ball that's representing the camera is colliding with the body. So what I had to do, or what, you don't have to do this obviously, but I'll get rid of that command. What makes it a little bit easier is if you do collision test, this is under camera collision on the spring arm, just uncheck that, and you'll notice that you've gotten it fixed. You've actually got it set right. If you put this into the ground like it would originally be, and the spring arm doesn't change. Okay, you might have noticed at the very beginning, whenever we rotated this down, that the spring arm would collapse whenever it got against something. Well, for us, we don't really care about that. We don't want that. So what I'm going to do is just get it back to where it was. In fact, you know what? I'm just going to drag in a brand new one. Let's go put it right there. Okay, and since half of it is in the ground because the scene root is touching a little bit below that, that was causing the collision to go off inside of the space on the spring arm, and that's why we're having a problem. So now if we go in here and hit play, there's no issue with the collision, so it'll just follow around with us. And then if I turn on my other controller and I hit start as soon as it decides to connect, there we go. Then we're able to run around. Now, just like before, we're not actually able to change things as far as the zoom yet, but this will follow us around the map. So if this is something where you're like, hey, this is exactly all we need, we don't need anything else. Now this doesn't keep them from going off the screen. They can go off the screen in opposite directions for days, and this little actor is going to try and stay with them. But if it can't, it's not going to. So it's, for some this may work just fine, but for others it may not be quite enough. So I'm going to have a second part of this video where I make the zoom that goes in and out. Okay, so hopefully that helps you out. So I'm going to stop it right there and give you guys a little bit of a breather before you continue on into the next one.